to the UIAAA Connection podcast. GoFan and VNN are proud to be the exclusive sponsor of the UIAAA Connection. Now a combined company, GoFan and VNN provide a seamless integration for digital ticketing and athletic websites. Direct your fans to one place for all your athletic events, communications, and tickets to home and away games. Thank you to GoFan and VNN for their exclusive sponsorship of the UIAAA Connection.
Welcome back to another edition of the UIAAA Connection. I'm your host, Mark Hutch Hunter. Today we have as our special guest Dan Norton, Certified Master Athletic Administrator, recently retired, and before he retired, the Director of Athletics at Auburn City Schools in Alabama. Welcome to the podcast, Dan.
Thank you, Hutch. I'm glad to be here.
Let's have you begin by sharing with our international audience where you grew up, where you went to school, university, your first job, etc.
Okay. I grew up basically here in Auburn, Alabama. My parents moved here when I was 5. And so I started kindergarten that year, and I went all the way through Auburn City Schools. Actually, when I graduated, I then went to Auburn University to work on an education degree in science education. And then I was hired back at Auburn Junior High School right out of college, and then moved from Auburn Junior High to Auburn High School after about 5 years. Spent 20 years in the classroom for Auburn City Schools. Well, Auburn High School, 25 years for Auburn City Schools. And then the last 7 years with Auburn City Schools, I was the athletic director.
Perfect. Let's let's talk about what opportunities you had to play youth sports growing up in Auburn.
Yeah, and we have a pretty strong rec department program here in Auburn. I mainly played soccer and basketball. I was never very good at basketball. Played a lot of soccer growing up. And of course, like most kids that I guess grow up here in Alabama, boys that grow up here in Alabama, you want to be a football player. And so in eighth grade, I went out and played football in eighth grade, ninth grade, 10th grade. I also joined the high school track team when I was in ninth grade to try to be a high jumper, which I never really was, but I enjoyed trying. And then in 10th grade, the cross country coach came to me during the middle of their season and said, "Hey, we have a home meet. Why don't you just come run it for fun?" And I found out that I could run at that point and made a decision because, a 5'7", 115-pound soaking wet football player doesn't get a lot of playing time on the varsity. That I could actually
Sure.
contribute to a team and contribute to the cross country team. So I gave up my dream of football and started running cross country. I was already running with the track team. Besides high jumping, I ran the mile some, and so by the time I graduated high school, I considered myself a distance runner. And then from there, went on and walked on at Auburn University for a few years, and things didn't work out there as well.
All right. Well, I'm going to ask you this question, but I'm pretty sure I know the answer. You're living in Alabama, so is it War Eagle or Roll Tide for you? I'm assuming the first.
Yeah, it is very much the first. War Eagle all the way. Diehard Auburn fan. That R word you used is considered a cuss word in our house. So appreciate it not being used.
That's funny. So give me your impressions because I usually watch the Iron Bowl every year, and my memory goes back to I don't know, it's maybe been 8, 10 years ago with the kick six. Tell me, as an Auburn fan, how exciting that must have been for you.
I was not at the stadium that day. My son was. I was at home watching it at home because he had the tickets. That the Iron Bowl
Hmm.
falls on his birthday, and so he usually got to go to the game. And but we lived probably about a mile and a half from the stadium, and so we watched the play and then ran to the front yard, and you could hear the stadium going crazy from our house. It was unbelievable. I mean, and then 2 weeks before when we played Georgia, we had the prayer and Jordan Hare where the basically a
Right.
prayer was thrown up and the ball was tipped, and then we end up scoring a touchdown. So there were quite a few. That was a really exciting season. We haven't had very many since then.
Well, let me ask you this then, being the Auburn fan that you are, so what was it like to see Cam Newton in person?
He's a big man. Um, he actually did a lot of reading to elementary school students. Um,
Hmm.
the elementary school where my children were attending at the time, and he lived in a duplex really right next to our neighborhood. Ran into him quite a lot when he was in town here in Auburn, but nice guy, but very, very large, very big man.
Okay, so let's go back further to the when you were much younger. Did you get a chance to meet the round mound of rebound, Charles
Bart,
Barkley?
I was actually his ball boy at Beardy's Memorial Coliseum at the time where they played basketball. I was the ball boy for those basketball teams for the university. So I sat underneath in the basket and wiped up sweat off the floor. So I didn't get
That's
to
awesome.
meet him and know him then. I've met him since then a couple times. Seems to be a great guy as well. He likes to
Now
speak his
give me, yes, he
both of them,
does.
both
That's
of those do both of them do that you brought up actually.
so let me ask you this then, if I'm not mistaken, of course, by the time this airs, it'll be a couple of weeks old. But what about the recent retirement of your basketball coach? Is that a
Sad,
kind of a
sad day.
shocker or a quick thing or
I felt
out of
like
the
it was
nowhere?
coming. I thought we had one more year. I just had the feeling that it was coming within the next year or two. And his son, Stephen Pearl's taken over, which we all kind of assumed here in the community that's what would happen. But it was a sad day. I mean, what Bruce Pearl has done for basketball at Auburn University and really within the Southeastern Conference as a whole, it's raised the level of play and it's made basketball. I mean, SEC's always been a football conference. Besides
Right.
Kentucky, Arkansas, Florida, you didn't have a whole lot of basketball that was where it was focused. And I think it's really raised the level of basketball in the conference, and it's a lot of fun to watch now. I mean, I remember going back to the Coliseum when I was young, and you didn't have to, somebody would give you a ticket or you could just walk in the door because there were so many empty seats. And today you can't get a ticket to go to a game. I wish I could. I mean, I live right down the road from it and I can't get in.
Mm.
But he's done a
That is
lot. It's a
great.
sad day.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Let's have you talk for a minute about the leaders and the mentors in your life that have had a big effect on you.
Well, I mean, I guess I would have to start with my parents on that question. Just the guidance they gave me growing up, um, what they taught me about hard work and about honesty and faith. Those things were so important and really hopefully, shaped me in a good way to who I am today. But I also had two really influential high school coaches. One was my cross country coach, Anthony Threet, probably the kindest human being I have ever known. Um, and to still run into him in town periodically is wonderful. And then the other was my track coach, Wayne Murphy. And Wayne ultimately became the AD at Auburn High School, and he hired me back at Auburn High as a teacher and a coach, and or helped me get the teaching job. He hired me as a coach, and they just gave me so much guidance along the way. Once I became athletic director, I look back at who really influenced me and really where my passions lie now. And I got to say, Kim Keel here in the state of Alabama. She's on our central board for our athletic association, but she used to be an athletic director. And she taught me my first 502 class when I first became an athletic director and didn't have any idea what I got into. And after it was over, we sat and talked for an hour. And, she very much emphasized that I needed to become involved in the NIAAA, go to national conference if possible. And really, those things have made such a difference in my career. Josh Matthews out of Section 3, out of Atlanta.
Mm.
He's really given me a tremendous amount of support in the last couple of years, and same with Rich Barton. I mean, anytime I have something that I feel like I need to face, especially when it's dealing with some of the development that we're trying to push through in Alabama with AD stuff, they're both so supportive and give me the courage to okay, we can do this. And so those have all been very important.
Well, then let me ask you a follow-up regarding Big Rich. Uh, so talk to our listeners about when we first met because it hasn't been very long ago.
No. Um, I was at the summit, the state coordinator summit up in Indianapolis. That's when you and I met. And Rich helped me kind of get involved and kind of fall into that position. I had been talking to him and talking to Josh a lot over the about 3 years ago about how I wanted to be more involved, how I kind of felt called to be more involved and to help provide more services for our athletic directors in Alabama. And um, Rich kind of named me the LTI coordinator for the state of Alabama, even though we didn't really
Okay.
have a whole lot in place. Albert Whedon had been kind of running two services. He was the LTI coordinator and the certification coordinator. But besides being an athletic director, he's also a school principal, and he's got a tremendous amount on his plate. And so um, Rich kind of invited me up to Indianapolis if I could talk the state association into sending me, and that kind of really built our friendship and helped me along the way, get me involved with that state coordinator position to be able to offer more professional development to our ADs here in Alabama.
And you're having dinner on Saturday night, and then Rich introduces you to some old guy from Utah and
Yeah,
says what?
I knew who you were. You didn't know who I was because I've seen this podcast before.
Oh,
So I knew who
and Big
you
Rich,
were.
yeah, Big Rich says, "Hey, you got to get him on the podcast." So we're glad you said yes. We're glad to
Well,
have
I
you on the
appreciate it.
podcast.
And I'm honored.
Let me ask you, let me ask you a little bit of a different personal question. What's your biggest failure or disappointment in life, and what did you learn from it?
That's a hard question because there's a lot of failures along the way. If I look at it from the failure side, disappointments, I don't know. They kind of you move on, and so I guess think about failures. In the fall of 2015, I coached cross country for 25 years, and my son was on my team, and that was a wonderful experience. But in the fall of 2015, we had won two state championships and we're trying to get to a third. And during the season, my son had gotten hurt, and he was in our top six. He wasn't one of our top three, but he had gotten hurt earlier in the season, and he really worked his tail off being in the pool, on a bicycle, trying to make sure he stayed fit. And so we got to the sectional meet, and I felt like he had earned the right to run at that section meet, and he probably ran the worst race of his life. And so on the Monday after sectionals, I told him he wasn't going to run at state, even though the team had qualified. He was going to come off the team, and somebody else was going to run in his spot at the state meet. And at that point, over the next 5 days, as we tried to get to the state meet, I lost a lot of trust that my team had in me. They came to me and said that I would never would have taken any one of them off the team, that I was treating my son differently. And
Hmm.
I was so focused on us trying to win three in a row that I think that I lost track of what was really important. And so I have used that story with my coaches, especially when I became athletic director, a lot for several different reasons. One is if you have a kid on your team that's your kid, yeah, you don't want to seem like you're giving them something they didn't deserve,
Sure.
but you don't make it harder on them. If you're going to raise the standard for them, raise the standard for everyone else. And I think I learned that I wasn't giving him anything easy. He didn't get anything he didn't deserve, but I made him work harder to get anything he did get. And I did treat him differently, but I treated him differently on the other side. And that's something that I feel I learned from that, that if I'm going to raise the standard for one, I need to raise the standard for all. And the other was just keeping the actual, what was the reason? I mean, what's high school sports for? It's winning championships is fun. I don't relish that one very much because of that whole situation that came out of it. Um, but winning is fun, but that's not the reason that we do it. And at that moment, that's what I had so focused on. And I took away the experience. And I took away the experience of somebody who's precious to me, even more precious than everybody else that was on the team. And that was just a big learning experience for me that I could go back and look at, especially when I was sitting in the AD office and I'm talking to a coach and their child is, an eighth grader or ninth grader, but they want to pull them up to varsity and, being able to talk through them, those kind of things. And this is my experience and this is what I learned from it. That was probably one of the biggest learning experiences I had.
Thank you for sharing that, and that's great advice for all of us, including me, who at one time or another have coached our children. So thank you for that.
Yes. It's a wonderful thing, but it's also very hard.
It is. Let's have you talk about the job of athletic administrator and how it's changed or how it's the same from when you first started years ago.
Well, I was only in it for 7, so I wasn't in it for 20 or 30 like some of the people I've met at national conference. But the year I started in January, and by the next January, we were starting COVID. So by the March of, 15 months in, we were shutting everything down. And I don't think we've ever gotten high school interscholastic athletics back to its true roots since COVID. Um, as we work our way out of COVID, now the level above us at the university, especially sitting here in a university town, you have NIL and transfer portal, and it's all about who can you bring in to win, and winning has become such the value point that and I feel coming out of COVID made it even worse because we had lost a year of what high school athletics does for a student, does for a community. And I feel like that's been the biggest change is our sports in high school don't feel like they are as community based, at least not where I am. I mean, our community is growing rapidly and has been for a lot of reasons, industry and other things. Our population has grown, but in that, when you have kids move in, it starts to me to start separating from the community some, and that's something that worries me a lot. And I feel like that we as athletic directors are the gatekeepers. And if we start to lose focus on what's important, it's going to be lost. And I feel like that's something that's changed a lot. And it has to do with social media, and there's a million other reasons, but um, it's made it difficult, made it very
Yeah.
difficult.
Thank you for sharing that. That's well said. Let me ask you now to go into a little bit more detail. So you were a coach for all those years. Talk about your journey with the Alabama Association, how you got involved. You told us a little bit about how Rich has helped you get to be the state coordinator, but I understand that you're on national faculty as well. So talk about all those things.
Yeah. Um, well, the Alabama High School Athletic Directors and Coaches Association, it falls under the umbrella of our state athletic association. So they're all kind of really one big unit. And really, everybody who coaches at the high school or junior high level in Alabama, all the principals, superintendents, athletic directors, everybody's a member of the AD and Coaches Association because when you join to become a member, you get your coach's card, and that allows you to get into events. So everybody's kind of a member. The Coaches and AD Association has done a tremendous job over the years of supporting our coaches, and we have coaching lunch and learns, and they have coaching clinics and everything else that they put on. They have not done a whole lot with AD development. And what we found over the last 10 years is we're getting more AD positions. They're not coaches and athletic directors. They're not assistant principals and athletic directors. Some of them are, but we're getting more and more standalone athletic director jobs. And it's so different than every other position at the school. And so once I became an athletic director and I'm looking for resources to help me because I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And there were many days that I missed just being a coach. Um, I started recognizing that there wasn't that there. And so I started going to the state association trying to get more national courses brought in, LTI courses brought into to our state, and, and more opportunities for our ADs to network and get together. So like last week, we actually hosted our first AD lunch and learn that we've had since before COVID. They used to have an AD lunch and learn before COVID, but it had disappeared. So we brought that back last week. And so I just became more and more involved. I've always been a member of it, even when I was a coach, but I became more involved with it once I became an athletic director and saw that there were some needs out there that we really needed to fill. Like I mentioned earlier, I joined the NIAAA immediately when I became an athletic director at the advice of somebody I think a whole lot of. She was a tremendous athletic director before she moved up into an assistant superintendent job. And I started taking courses, and I've taken as many courses as I could take along the way. I earned my CAA, and then I followed that with my CMAA. To get my CMAA, we took Auburn High School through the QPA process. That was my
Mm,
project for my CMAA. And
sure.
and there were a lot of reasons for that. One, we're about to build another school in town. Well, I wanted to have all the documentation in one spot so that when a new school opens, we can say, hey, this is what we've been doing that works, and be able to give them something as a starting point. And also nobody else in the state of Alabama had done it. And my competitive juices said, we're going to be first. So that was another reason that we went ahead and did the QPA, was to try to be first. But there were a lot of reasons for us doing that. And that was a tremendous learning project for us to find out what we felt like we did well on, but the areas we really needed to improve. And then the kind of the push behind coming up with a plan to figure out how to improve it. Those were important for us. In 2024 is when I actually became state LTI coordinator. And also that same year, I was asked to join the 721 Positive Sporting Behavior for the Love of the Game course. It's an excellent course that when I took it, I was like, I mean, it spoke to me. And sportsmanship is something that I've really tried to push hard at my school, and so it really was something that when they said, "Hey, would you be willing to help come teach this course?" I was like, "Definitely, I'll be there." And so I'm excited to be back, in Tampa this December to teach again.
Perfect. Let me ask you, since you mentioned Tampa, give me your observations regarding I say the most recent, it's probably been 9 months now since we had the conference in Austin. Talk about that for a minute.
Some pretty good barbecue.
Yeah,
No, no, I mean, I thought to me, national conferences, and I haven't been to a lot of national conferences in other fields, but it's like no other. It's a space where, as an athletic director, you're with so many people who do the same thing you do and understand your job. But to make those connections where you're talking to somebody from Utah, or you're talking to somebody from North Carolina, or from even Hawaii, or even around the world, and they're dealing with the same problems you are, and you have somebody to say, hey, how would you handle this? And that's so valuable in my opinion. I did not get to do a lot of things I wanted to in Austin because I tried to really um, tried to get more of our Alabama contingent going, you
sure.
know, and tried to get them to um, meet together, make sure we have everybody at the section meeting because we were always scattered. There were always more people there than I knew. And so, we tried to organize it a little bit more. I also had to I did represent the state in several meetings that normally I would not attend. And so I didn't have a lot of time to take a class. I didn't get to take a class last year because I was teaching one, and I also did a workshop. And the workshops, to me, the workshops are one of the most valuable things there, just because you have so many choices and there's something in your school you need to improve, and you can go sit. Like I'm looking forward this year. Yeah, I'm not looking for anything to improve in my school anymore, but I'm gonna go to the new AD toolbox workshop. Why? Because I want to bring that back to our state because it's something I feel like our new ADs need. And they're not going to be at conference. So maybe if I go, I can bring that back. So I look at it as growth opportunities to maybe add some classes and workshops at our state level. It's kind of my purpose for it.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. Now let's have you talk a little bit more, maybe share some stories about being a state coordinator. You really kind of like the first one in your state, getting that going. Maybe some stories about attending the summit in Indianapolis, and just kind of what a rewarding experience it's been for you.
Well, as I moved toward retirement, I actually thought I was going to stay one more year, and I decided to step out. Um, and what has been on what I guess my passion is what I explained to the state director. My passion has become wanting to help our athletic directors in the state of Alabama because to me, again, like I've mentioned earlier, we're that gatekeeper, and if we are on different pages all the time and we never communicate, then high school athletics is going to slip through our fingers. And so if we can get those ADs together and we can build a unit and build um, camaraderie between them and be on the same page, ultimately, I feel like we can hold on to what education-based athletics should be. And so being that state coordinator has given me the opportunity to go to our state association and say, okay, we've got 5 days in our state conference in the summer. Do you all have a room? How many rooms do we have? How many courses will you let us go and teach? Because we have more teachers in the state right now than we can use with the number of classes that we do. Um, we have quite a few people who've actually, if they've got their CMAA or their CAA, they've probably taken 790. Most of them have.
Mm,
Um, and so we've got a lot of people who want to teach something, but I don't have a class to put them in right now to teach. And so just trying to look for those opportunities and look for opportunities at the state office or, can we offer up something at the state office during the school year to offer to our athletic directors. Being at the summit helps me tremendously because we don't have a big blueprint here in Alabama currently. But to hear, Darren Coe was sitting at my table talking about their 18-month certification cycle in North Carolina. Well, tell me more about that. I'm gonna sit and talk to him a little while to get more information, because the more information I can get, then the better we can set a blueprint here. Because I think we've got some tremendous athletic directors in the state of Alabama, but we also, just like everybody else, we have a lot of turnover. We have a lot of new people,
mm.
and so how can we get them in and how can we help them grow as professionals?
Let me ask you a two-pronged question, Dan. When I say what's the favorite part of your job, well, three prongs. The favorite part of your job when you were coaching, the favorite part of your job when you were the athletic director, and now the favorite part of your job now that you're the standalone coordinator.
Ooh, okay. As a coach, I would have to say practice. I love practice. I love to watch kids run. I love to see the effort that they put in, how much work they were willing to put in, the dedication. It just meant the world to me because I knew they were giving all of that for their teammates. So to me, practice was my favorite part of coaching. As an athletic director, away games, going to watch the kids compete, but me not have to be in charge of the facility or the
Mhm.
crowd or the officials. I love to travel, and because I got to be a fan again. I mean, I grew up in this school system. I've spent my whole life here, and so the Big Blue A really means something to me. And so there were too many times when we're hosting, I don't get to cheer for our team. I don't get to be a spectator in any way, shape, or form. And so it was fun. My favorite part was, hey, I get to ride in a police car in the escort with the team to the state basketball tournament. Let's go. I'm not in charge of the state basketball tournament. I'm a fan. That was fun. That was my most fun part. Um, and then, I mean, now, part of the reason I retire is my parents are much older. My dad's 89 years old. My mom's 86. My dad still gets on a tractor a couple days a week and works out at a timber farm that he has about 30 miles from town. And so the most fun I'm having is spending time with him out there working. But in terms of, helping ADs, like the lunch and learn we did last weekend was a tremendous amount, or last week was a tremendous amount of fun. Um, you know, I don't have all the answers, but able to we wanted to talk about coaches' meetings. Okay, that's what I was asked to talk about was coaches' meetings. It had one slide and about 15 questions on it, and all we did was sit around and talk about it. And to see one AD from one part of Alabama say, "Well, this is what I do. Oh, and I use a form or I use a questionnaire for my coaches. Hey, will you send that to me?" And have another AD ask for it, and they connect. That to me was a lot of fun, to be able to put people together who can help each other.
Thank you for sharing those thoughts. Let's finish up with a couple of questions. The first one being, if you had two suggestions for a brand new athletic administrator and they had to follow Dan's suggestions in order to become a success, what would your two suggestions be?
I'm gonna give you three because
Perfect.
it's hard to narrow it down to two. But first, I would say keep a balance in your life. The most important person on the coaching staff is a coach's wife. Um, what they give up, or a coach's husband, or the family, or the significant other, whoever it happens to be. It's the same with athletic directors. I mean, this job will swallow you if you let it. And so you've got to have a balance. You've got to have something outside of your school and your high school sports. Because if you don't, it will eat you up. Because there's just so many different parts to it. I would say number two would be to delegate, and that's something that I struggle with. Delegate, give other people responsibilities. And that I don't feel like did a very good job of that, and I still don't do a very good job of that. But had I done a better job at it, then I would have had people better prepared to take my place when I left. Had I delegated better, because that's what we as leaders should be doing is building new leaders to follow us. And delegation's part of that. And then I think the third thing is just letting people like your upper administration know what you do. It's not always tooting your horn saying, "Hey, look at me," but sometimes they have no idea what your responsibilities are as an athletic administrator. We were in a playoff game last year in football, and I'm in the bathroom because the girls' toilet's overflowing, and we've closed the bathroom, and I'm mopping the bathroom floor. My superintendent walked in and said, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm cleaning up the toilet. I'm cleaning up the bathroom." "Well, why are you doing that?" "Who else is going to do it? That's part of my job. It's not written in my job description, but this facility and this game are my responsibility." And so she didn't realize that it wasn't just what was going on in the field, that there were a lot of other aspects to it. And so I think, yeah, I mean, not going to your superintendent and saying, "Hey, I had to mop the floor last night," but letting them really know what all those responsibilities are. I think a lot of people don't realize that. And, they think it's just going to a game and setting, having the game ready to go. Um, and so I think that's important.
Great suggestions. Thank you for sharing. We'll finish with this. Dan, what question should I have asked you that I failed to ask?
I don't really know an answer to that question. Because you got into the War Eagle question earlier. So
Okay. All right. Well, on that note, that wraps up this edition of the UIAAA Connection. Once again, our special guest today has been Dan Norton, Certified Master Athletic Administrator, recently retired, and before that, the Athletic Director at the Auburn City Schools. Thank you, Dan, for being on the podcast today.
thank you, Hutch.
And for our listeners, we hope you tune in again next week for another edition of the UIAAA Connection podcast. War Eagle.
War Eagle.